So I have to read off the iPhone here, but I think it'll work. This is a story of an acoustic recording that I was denied making by my ethics officer at Athabasca University. However, attending and participating in the event was given full approval by the ethics committee and the ethics board. And the sounds I describe are from my memory, just so you know. So just so you know, before we proceed, this received ethics approval from Athabasca University in Canada. Ida mitsitako, it means have a happy good day. Oki nida Nagio Mickey Valley from Tier 2 Canada Research Chair in Sound Studies from Athabasca University. I'm also a research consultant with Red Crow Community College, which is Canada's first on-reserve Indigenous research independent post-secondary institution in Canada. I thus live in Blackfoot Territory, Treaty 7 of Southern Alberta, home of the Niitsitapi, the blood tribe, what they call the real people. I'm also their research consultant. I partner with them in Standoff, Alberta, where they live. I personally live in Okimistake, which is the mountains on the Alberta-BC border. I'm on the board of directors for the Canadian Association for Sound Ecology. Thanks. And it's the very best invitation of my life. And I'm also the Canadian rep for the World Forum for Acoustic Ecology. Thanks. I have a multifaceted relationship with wild animals and with domestic animals, where I'm living and doing my field work. To simplify and organize this complexity, I find solace in the academic discipline of animal geographies. I'm no expert in geography, but I'm finding that literature particularly interesting lately, especially in the context of conservation, human-wildlife conflict, and food production. However, I'm aware that the use of counting and culling in conservation efforts can obfuscate underlying political struggles, and animal geographers have therefore emphasized the intricate relationships between conservation, conflict, and killing. And moreover, scholars have pointed out that the language used to discuss invasive species and global biodiversity conservation can silence concerns about animal welfare and sentient beings. Animal geographers have also shed light on how justifying animal killing in various contexts are often grounded in rhetoric centered around the safety of humans. Animal geographers also find themselves not just interested in the killing, but the caring for animals. And what I'm interested in is the killing-caring paradox that people in my ethnographic site seem to wrestle with and live through. But the caring animal geographers examine the ethical challenges of causing harm for population-based goals, develop compassionate conservation, analyze formal structures, shape human-animal relations, and by exploring intersections of killing and caring, animal geographers aim to understand these complex relationships between humans and animals. And my presentation explores this killing-caring paradox between animals and humans and hopes to elucidate the complexity with stories such as the one I will tell. I'm sorry, I'm trying to move my slide forward. Oh, no, here's cuz over here. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is our tour of my field site. Yeah, okay, it's a big field site. It's the Southern Alberta Wildlife Corridor that connects Castle Provincial Park and Flathead Valley to sustain diverse species such as bears, wolves, elk, and moose at the risk of inbreeding due to restricted movement. Highway 3 and human activities like mining and logging tend to threaten wildlife. Collaborative efforts from conservation groups, government agencies, and local communities establish measures such as wildlife-friendly fencing, crossing to reduce impacts, roadkill and such, and the preservation of the corridors, especially crucial for species sustainability and health. Wildlife regulation is complex. It creates conflicts and restricts movements. Animal geographies promotes a coexistence and a sustainable future by rethinking invasive species and considering animals as non-human climate refugees. Southern Alberta has a very complex relationship with animals. While conflicts and regulations exist, there is also a longstanding history of human-animal coexistence. Animals are both revered and viewed as a threat or a nuisance in the region's culture and history. The Blackfoot people have traditions and relationships with animals, and pioneers worked alongside animals for their livelihoods. This paradoxical relationship highlights the multifaceted nature of the human-animal relationship in Southern Alberta. Hunting is regulated and valued in Southern Alberta, producing food and providing food and connecting people with the land. Regulations ensure sustainability, ethical practices, and skill sharing. In Southern Alberta, it's also legal for individuals to raise and slaughter their own pigs for personal consumption or for sale in accordance with Canadian Food Inspection Agency regulations. This practice is common amongst farmers and rural residents who prefer to have control over the quality and the source of their food. Raising and slaughtering pigs can be a time-consuming and labor-intensive process, as it requires proper facilities, proper tools, equipment, know-how of a pig's psyche, how to reduce pain and suffering, knowledge of animal husbandry, and food safety. In addition, the slaughtering process must follow very specific regulations to ensure that the meat is safe for consumption and that the animal suffers the least possible. Some individuals also choose to participate in communal pig slaughters, where a group of people come together to raise, slaughter, and process a number of pigs. This practice has cultural and social significance for some communities and is often seen as a way to connect with tradition and shared values. For instance, it's not uncommon for children to witness their favorite pets get slaughtered as part of a community gathering, like at Thanksgiving. I was asked by a neighbor if I wanted to participate in their pig slaughter, and despite my best intentions, I said yes. My children played with those pigs. My children were friends with those pigs. Those pigs taught a fun game of pig tag with the kids. And this was in the midst of a broader bioacoustics project that I was doing and I'm still doing on human-animal relations. But when I sought permission from my ethics officer at Athabasca to record the event of the killing itself, she said, no, the recorder must shut off at that point. So thus my recorder was off, but my experience was not. Immediately after the kill, I went home and I wrote this. As I approached the property, I noticed that a large group of people had gathered for the event. At the entrance, some individuals were preparing a tractor with a forklift and untangling industrial chains, which made it clear that something significant was happening. This was a new experience for me. I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, where mud was only a metaphor slung between political opponents or a seasonal inconvenience rather than a permanent fixture in life. We gathered around the pig pen where 4 8-month-old pigs were peacefully wallowing and looking for food. They hadn't been fed yet this morning. We drank hot coffee and smoked cigarettes and told jokes and gossiped through the curling misty air of coffee, cigarette, and story. Looking into the pen, I remember a picture that I show here of my daughter running from the pigs, the game they taught each other on their many visits there. The pigs here were 4 months old in this picture. The owner of the pigs, who had been laughing along with us telling stories, finished his own coffee and promptly picked up one of 3 22 single-shot rifles he'd retrieved from his storage. He loaded what he thought was the best gun with a single 29-grain bullet and set the other 2 rifles aside just in case. The single-shot 22 only takes 1 bullet at a time, making it necessary to reload between shots. And if you have fumbly thumbs like I do, they're really small and they're hard to kind of jam in there. It's a simple process, but it does require a calm hand. And shooting a pig takes patience. If you ask a farmer or a rancher how to kill an animal, each animal will have a particular cross-section on their skull that the farmer will show you exactly where it is, because they have to know what is deemed the best kill spot. On a horse, the kill spot, for instance, is much higher than on a pig. Their brains are set much higher than on a pig. On a pig, the kill spot is right between its eyes, where the snout meets the skull. And a pig moves a lot. It shifts and jolts and runs without notice. They're joyful animals. Um, when a pig eats, though, it's quite vulnerable. And that's the best time to shoot a pig is when it's eating. One of the best times to shoot a pig is when it's eating. Because its ears cover its eyes when its head is down, and they can keep their heads still enough so that the shooter can prep their rifle and approach quietly without the pig even noticing. With your head in a bucket full of food, let's say a KFC bowl or something that we can all relate to, even all of us would be consumed by the sounds of our own enjoyment, the acoustic resonance from within the bucket of slop being mashed by tongue and ground by teeth, the ears picking up sounds of the bucket and of the internal sounds of the slopping, popping, chewing jaw, swallowing, belching, and farting, all at once, pure, shameless joy. The shooter had instructed us to guide the remaining pigs to their night enclosure and to hold the door shut. And that was my job, was to hold the door shut, to prevent the other pigs from coming out into the mud. It's important in a pig slaughter to kill them in isolation of one another. But he knew I was least experienced. My friend knew I was the least experienced, but I wanted to be involved in the process. So he designated the others the hard task of tying the carcasses to the forklift with chains, and someone else would drive the tractor carefully to the dressing area 2 by 2 as they were ready to be dressed. And I could feel the pigs on the other side of the door as I was ready at the door. I could hear them snorting through the dirt, making small talk with one another, just as we were earlier with our coffees and our cigarettes and our words, and their voices were calm. Then the shooter warned people who didn't want to see, maybe to leave the vicinity. Now, he said, no children, speaking to everyone, but pointing at one 4-year-old committed to witnessing. The children complied, all of them. They retreated with some other parents to the river at the other edge of the property. Many of us had a job to do, but not everyone. Some people stayed to just witness, support, have fun, continue drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes. And now we were in position. We were in a state of readiness. We were at the end of the series of events that led us to this new place, this place of indeterminate possibility. We were at the mouth of the passageway to the liminal space where the pigs, to facilitate the cause and witness a transition from pet to food. We had entered our own corridor, our own passageway. Okay, everybody ready, he asked. The shooter placed a bucket of feed in front of one of the pigs, and she dug her head in to consume immediately. He readied his rifle, approached the pig quietly, took aim, and fired a quiet pop. However, just as the rifle fired, at the very moment, the pig looked up from the slop, maybe to find her friends, who knows, causing the bullet to hit the front of her snout instead of her kill spot, and everything fell apart. She bolted for a moment without a sense of direction before standing confused about her body, awkwardly leaning on one side, shaking and letting out a rising, piercing scream that echoed through everything and everywhere and beyond. Pink foam oozed from her snout and splattered into the mud like drops of rain, mixing with the clay that she once played in. The clay now softened in spots where the foam had entered, creating a surreal scene of pink foam lava beneath her tough, rubbery cloven hooves. The foam rose and bubbled, full of life, pushing as high and wide as it could go, trying to make sense of where it was and what it was. The pig's screams bound us as we froze to make sense of what was happening. In this moment, everything the pig was experiencing was contained in those screams. Her screams expressed not only pains of confusion, wailing in search of a whale's cause. The pink foam swelled, now dropped in fat, wet golf balls into the mud, splat into her favorite clay. Now as much softened as her own face was swelling, and traces of pink foam started to appear in the corners of her eyes, her own body trying to escape itself. She stumbled, continued her wails, her face inflating, her agony growing. Another sound had accompanied this sound. I'd noticed that the sound of the shooter releasing the bolt handle quickly, the shell casing ringing like a service bell as it flew from the rifle's ejection port into the pink foam mud. The shooter retrieved another bullet and smoothly loaded the rifle, all the while voicing, sorry, sorry, sorry. Oh shit, I missed. Oh crap, oh crap. It's okay, girl. It's okay. Don't worry. Okay. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I can't tell if he's apologizing to the 22, to us, to the pigs, possibly everyone. He's told me that he thanks every animal before he kills them, every turkey for Thanksgiving, every elk for sport, every chicken for stock. He loads a rifle, he shoots. The pop of a 22 is like a toy compared to the shotguns and rifles I'm more accustomed to hearing echoing through the mountains in hunting season. And the pop shuts down the pig's vibrating body as she collapses into the mud. The pink foam calms, slows as her heart stops, now slowly foaming from her twisted jaws instead of gushing from her snout. No more squeals. But I feel something else, and I become cognizant of another sound that had started the moment she was shot. There was a pressure building on my left side. My job in this project, in a slaughter, had been to hold the other pigs back inside their pen as the human participants would draw one pig after the other from their protected enclosure into the pen. That protected enclosure was now their holding pen, another corridor, and it dawned on me that they can't see what's going on, but they can hear it. The force against the door grew from a slow beat to an insistent pounding to deliberate rhythmic pounding, and they slammed their bodies into the door and they started to knock me back. Then the three remaining started to scream in unison and pound on the door. I had to intensify my pressure against the door, which was no longer a door, but a vulnerable thin slab. The edge of my boot carved a foothold into the clay, now hardening from the pressure of my body, from the pressure of the door, the pressure of the pig. My body jolted back with every throw, my 220-pound frame, nothing against the force and vivacity of their tightly packed bodies. I was but a frail passage to their termination with a 29-grain bullet waiting silently to nest in their skulls. And so other onlookers at the slaughter hopped the fence and joined me to keep the pigs contained. The clay beneath our feet formed footholds for all of us. That clay was once a place where the pigs wallowed, played tag with my children, and signified the best thing in life for them. And I said, fuck you in my head to John Stuart Mill, who out of nowhere said, it's better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. Fuck you. I also wondered suddenly and pretentiously, and passively about Descartes' melted wax, wondering how it is that a substance as thick and sticky as mud could undergo such a radical transformation to go from joy one day to friend to being my support that prevented them from attending to their friend. What holds my 222-pound body held tight against the door of their pen, and philosophy is that intruder in life. Bioacoustics research suggests that when pigs begin to scream, other pigs can be startled and start screaming in sympathy, especially in response to high-pitched screams. But despite the evidence of the sociality and the emotional complexity of pigs, some people continue to view pig screams solely in terms of anatomical parameters, without acknowledging the lived experience and emotional capacity of animals. And this raises important questions about our relationship. Oh, that's better. About the relationship. No, shit. Okay. This is about the relationship with animals. Squeals and squeals, squeals and squeals. The heels of my boot and the mud of the pen are the same. My boots have violated the sacred ground of foraging and play. The first squeal is followed not long after. And then we get back to work. Someone else joins the three pigs in the enclosure, holds them back, and they trust her because she's a human. Even though we've revealed to the pigs the great secret, the great trick of ethical farming, that it never ends well, they still trust us. And so she holds them back because they think they're safe and they're obedient and they love her. The brother goes out. The pig brother goes out to the open area. I mean, he doesn't notice his dead sister because the shooter has put another big bucket of slop at the end of the run, the door. And the brother pauses, takes notice of the food, begins to eat, and quickly the shooter lodges a bullet right to the kill spot, and the pig collapses without so much a whimper. The other two pigs are calming and take their turn, and the job is just simply done. I remain and watch everyone do their work, but I'm clearly in distress. The shooter walks up to all of us, thanks us, pats us on the back. We have more cigarettes and more coffee. Well, we're on to beer now. And in the meantime, the children are at the river, and hear nothing of this. They're themselves consumed by the rushing sounds of water that keep them pure. This killing caring paradox is a central concern in animal geographies. Elucidating it through attending these kinds of events is of growing interest to animal geographies, as well as sonic geographies too. And there's been a surge of research in this area. Despite the necessary structural necessity of the opposition between life and death in this contemporary organization of animal life, those who live it experience it as a paradox, and they live within the paradox. The sense arises from the paradox. There's no one in these situations who takes part in these activities who doesn't see it as a paradox, and they struggle with it too. The perspective of the killing caring paradox in animal geographies then is an ethical dilemma of caring for and killing animals that you care for, or killing animals that you care for, or caring for animals that you killed. And in the case of the pig, the slaughter described, it highlights the conflicting emotions and responsibilities of the individuals involved, who must balance their care for the pigs with the reality of their impending slaughter. So the paradox of caring and killing animals brings to light the complex ethical questions surrounding our relationships with non-human animals. It challenges us to consider not only humane treatment of animals, but also the ethics of consuming them. In the case of the pig slaughter, it would prompt us to think about whether the pigs were being treated ethically and humanely throughout their lives, and whether their slaughter was carried out in a way that minimized their suffering. Furthermore, the killing caring paradox reminds us that relationships with animals are not one-dimensional. We must acknowledge the complex and often conflicting emotions that arise when we care for and kill animals, and strive to find ways to navigate these challenging while still treating animals with respect and dignity.